Hello, and welcome to today's Coppice Dev stream. I am Martin, I am your host, and I am a software developer. For those of you who do not know me, I've been developing software for the Mac and iOS for about 17 years now, and when I'm not spending my time doing contracting work for others, I work on my own app, Coppice, an indie Mac app. And this stream is my experiment to share with the world how you actually build an app for Apple's platforms and all the processes of designing and developing and shipping an app. GMC Smith, thanks very much for the subscription. As some of you may have seen, I managed to get affiliate status on Twitch since the last stream. So that opens up many great new features to me, one of which is the ability for you, the viewers, to subscribe. Subscription basically gives you ad-free access and will give you various other benefits which will slowly come online over time. One of the things is emotes. And unfortunately the emotes aren't ready yet because Twitch has to approve them, but I do have two emotes that I can show you now for what they will actually look like that are already in the process of getting approved. I was hoping they'd be approved for today, but maybe for the next stream. So if we hop over, we have two emotes that I have designed. It's basically my little robot character who is basically going to have a pixel art version of himself as emotes. So first off, we have Angry Face, which matches up to this little face down here. So there's an angry version of myself that will soon be available as an emote, hopefully. And for the happy face, we have this little guy as a nice little happy emote. I've also been doing a few bits and pieces working over the week. Amongst the new things, you'll notice that my little guy now blinks a bit to give him a bit more life. And I've also, because I'm rather happy with how things are going, created a new very happy emote for when I'm rather pleased with how things have gone, to go along with my usual worried, angry and confused faces. So I'm slowly building things up. I've also, over the week, been doing the foundations of getting a YouTube channel set up so that all the VODs of these streams can actually go online on YouTube so that you can watch them on there later, because they only stay on Twitch for about 2 weeks before they're deleted. So I'm currently working to get all those up there, uploaded and everything sorted out. You may also hear some expanded music of the course of this stream. I've added some additional songs to the playlist for the stream from both Twerp and Miracle of Sound. So hopefully they will come up over the course of the next few hours, so you can listen to them in the background as I talk about all the things that I am working on. So how are you all today? Let me know in the chat what you're working on, if you're just listening, or how your day's been. Oh, thanks, Sinister. Yeah, they've been fun to work on. I've actually got some others that I was playing around with before the stream. So there is a grin emote to match this one. Worried, I'm a bit iffy on, but hopefully that matches up a bit with that. And one that I'm really not I'm really trying to work with is confused, which is going to take a bit of time to get working right. That is the hardest one probably for me to get working, but I literally had just drawn that before the stream started. So yeah, hopefully those will be the main emotes that people get over time, one for each of my faces in the chat, and then I'll work on other emotes or other things, special subscriber badges and so on. So lots of stuff to play with over time. So if we get Photoshop out of the way, actually what I want to do is open up image editor designs. Yes, I do have an animated slot, so I'm trying to work out what I could do for an animated emote. So I mean, part of the reason I did them as pixel art is because it works pretty well as a just as a little thing of scaling my robot down, because it is meant to be a computer screen, but they also scale up better. But also, hopefully, I can play around with animation, because pixel art animation is a bit easier than doing full-blown animation. So I'm not entirely sure what to put. Maybe something where the screen sort of transforms into something else, maybe a star, or I'm still trying to work out what I could do for the one animated emote slot I've got at the moment, but it's probably going to be something where you see something a bit like this, but it actually transforms into something else, some symbol or something on the screen. So that's what I'm possibly thinking. Right, so let's have a look at what we're going to be doing today. So what we've been working on, actually I don't need to show you in Photoshop because it is all working in the app. So if we build and run Coppice, what we worked on last time was finishing up the cropping tool. Of the many features that I'm adding in this new version of Coppice, I'm adding a lot of image editing features. So earlier on we added image rotation, now I am adding image cropping. So once this is finished building and running, it takes a little while to launch up sometimes after you do a fresh compile. You'll need to fix that. Sample document sometimes gets deleted by the OS. So if I open sample document, what we need to do is add a screenshot. So let's add a screenshot of Photoshop. We just bring this on. Copy that and create a new image and paste it in. So our cropping tool, ooh, interesting. Aha, we have found a bug. Well, let me show you on another image how the cropping tool works. So the cropping tool here, you switch to it, you can actually get all these resize bounds and we can crop down to a particular size. We have the dimensions showing below. You can crop down to the minimum size and move it about, resize it. You can also undo it, and it also works if you go into view mode and undo and redo. So what we appear to have done is broken the ability to... So we paste it in, we're probably not saving the image. I know why that will be. If we go into our image editor view model, we have cropped image here. And we are binding to this cropped image, but we are not actually setting it. So yeah, this how are we going to do this? So there are two ways I'm thinking. One is that the actual cropped image, we store that in a private variable which will cache it. The other and then this cropped image is basically like this one up here. It is backed by that variable, and what we'll do is return the cached image for the getter, but for the setter we will set image. That does make sense, because what we also want to do is self.croprect equals content.croprect equal let's just do reset croprect. Actually no, because setting the image should reset the croprect. Yes, that does. Okay. So we could do it that way. Another way is just not do bindings for this. But then we need to observe it anyway. So no, let's do it do dynamic var private cached image. And set is going to be self.image value. Right, and then what we also need to do is up here for if key equals key path image. I want to insert cached cropped image. Could also do what we're doing is let's date this to how everything else works. Actually, these else. What's that adding? Oh, dynamic var private var. That would explain that. So sort that out. Hopefully. That had crashed, so let's try that again. Okay. Reopen. That's unusual. Like the app isn't even doing anything. Pause and see what on earth is going on. Oh, it seems to have completely. Wonder what on earth is going on here. Right, report. So why wasn't it letting me insert that? The crops. Oh. All the compiler tools that Apple builds, and they can't give you a simple, are you sure you want to actually do a full regression, a full call the same thing and get stuck in an infinite loop? You can't even seem to bother trying to detect it sooner. Right. So that's gone in. And now it appears here. And now we could up this down to here. And there we go. So we have this all cropping, and then we can see, oh, there's a little bit of a black line. We can go back in and we can adjust that a bit more. And it is all completely non-destructive, so you always have the full image. But you can go back and this is all working. Now, one thing that probably won't work is if I type that, yeah, so that is throwing away the crop rect because that is setting a whole new image. So that is one thing that we will need to work out, so I will add that to the to-do list. We will have to get it working with rotation, because what we want to do is take this rectangle and basically rotate it in the context of the image. So when we actually do the rotation, which I believe yeah, so we set here, so in here we're going to want to take the crop rect and rotate that 90 degrees and then apply the crop rect again once we've applied the image so that it maintains all that. We're eventually going to want to do the same thing again with the hotspots when we place those, because we're going to want to rotate those 90 degrees as well. But we can sort that out when we get to it. So what we want to do today is we have our to-do list here. So at the moment there are various things that deal with an image page, especially when adding it onto a canvas, that should use the size of the image to determine how big that page should be when it's put on the canvas and where should it be and so on. And at the moment they are using the image size. What we need them to do is use the crop rect size, because that is going to be the actual display size that we have. So what we can do is let's need to find out where we're actually using it. So we go to our image page content. So we've got initial content size here. So what we can do is get check hard self.image not equal L. Otherwise we'll return self.croprect.size. Now hopefully this should now work. So if we have this here and we drag this on, there we are. That is all looking correctly. Now one thing that won't work is if we do size to fit, that is doing the incorrect size. But same thing again, down here it uses the image size. So what we'll do is guard self.image not equal to nil, else we return the current size. Otherwise we're going to return self.croprect.size. Now if we size to fit content, we now size to the crop size. But again, there is some issues here because this preview here is not reflecting the crop size. So I need to go look at the preview code, and I haven't looked at that in a long time. Canvas thumbnail. Where is this actually set? Canvas thumbnail generator. Right, so if I switch back to Coppice, debug, we have show preview generation. So I can generate this here, I can also do it where it scales it to different sizes. So this is where we actually want to play with things. So let's have a look and see what we can do, because that seems like it's doing the correct size. It's just taking the full image and scaling it down. So what we actually need is to crop this again. Right. Now the page rect. Text page. Draw image page. And here we have a drawn plain page. We get an image here. So we have our scaled rect. Let's see if I can have a look at view model. Generate our crop rect here. We draw in the rect from self.crop rect flipped in let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. Oh. Oh. Image content.crop rect. There we go. That is now drawn correctly up there. And if we go to our where are we? Our preview generation. Okay, so I don't know why that is drawing down there as well. Maybe that's a bug in that view, because it is drawing perfectly fine up here. So I think that is all working. Let's have a quick look. Where have we put these things? Let's move these out of the source code, and what I will do is them in Tot. So, I mean, if you've never heard of Tot, it's a great little app from the Icon Factory, which just lets you put all your various notes and stuff in. So I use it for compiling like release notes for Coppice, putting all stuff together. But it's just a little note thing in the menu bar that you can put things in and use Markdown to write them up. So this is a rather good place for us to start sticking our to-do list. Yeah, Sinister. It does require a lot of patience, programming. A lot of people think programming is just, oh, you just type it on the keyboard all the time. The vast majority of programming is reading rather than writing. You are reading stuff, trying to understand how on earth it works, trying to put everything together in your head, and then getting it down into code. I mean, in a sense, there's like similarities with drawing and animating and so on, where you've got to visualize what you want to do in your head before you can get it down onto the screen or onto paper. It's just the output is a bunch of code. So like with the previews, it was oh, we want the image to scale down and be a particular size and crop and stuff, and while someone might just draw that out, for me the actual drawing out is knowing to actually stick this in. But yeah, there's a lot more to get your head around, because I believe Coppice, the source code is about 20 to 30,000 lines of code, and there's probably that much again in tests. So it takes a lot to understand things. This is why I have comments everywhere, because it just allows me to understand what on earth is going on. Because you just cannot keep it all in your head long enough. It will all seep out eventually. So, we've got these. Oh, got these implemented. And I want to disable some inspectors. So, I mean, starting to learn to program, I actually learned by just going to the library and getting books out. So I started back when I think I was about 8 years old. Now, I didn't know how to program, but I'd seen a game called Myst, and I loved that game, and it had come with a making of. So I looked at that and saw how they made it and was trying to make my own things, and eventually over time I got books out of the library and learned things, and you can generally find some very good books around that will teach you various different languages. And the key thing is that most of the time the skills that you need to learn are skills that apply to everything. So you can learn one programming language and apply the basic fundamentals to another. So a lot of it is really basic things like, what is a variable? Well, where a variable is just a bit of memory where you store some value. So this is just going to store something in it. It's a box that you put something in. Okay, so you've got variables, and then think, what can I do with those variables? Well, I can see, are these variables equal and not equal to one another? And therefore you get control flow. So this is the most basic thing, an if statement. If something is true, do X, otherwise do Y. And now you've got a computer that can decide how to do stuff. And then you get other things such as loops, where you go through things multiple times. So you've got, like, in this case, all my drag handles around my crop thing. I've got a list of those, and I can iterate through those and just go through. So those basic concepts are actually easy enough to learn and understand, and as you start applying them over and over again, you become more and more familiar with them, and they apply to pretty much every programming language out there, every platform that you work on. They may work slightly differently. Different languages make it look slightly different. I mean, all of this is in a language called Swift, which is one of the two main languages that are used for developing on Apple's platforms. But I do have, I think, one thing in here. Yeah, this thing that actually looks somewhat different. Because if you see here, we have like private, func, and then a name here, and a bunch of stuff that you pass into it, and then something that comes out. Whereas in this one, which is in a different language, you have what comes out, the name, and then the stuff you pass in. So it's almost in a different order, and you don't have some of these things at the front. And you get things like all these square brackets and stuff, because this is a different language. But it's all fundamentally the same thing. This is calling a function, this is calling a function. This is a variable, this is a variable. So they're all the same things, it's just different, effectively dialects of the same fundamental principles. So, I mean, really it's just pick a language and start to learn it. If you want to do web stuff, then you'd probably want to look at stuff like PHP or Ruby or JavaScript. And if you're really getting started, just HTML and CSS are good. They're not programming languages, but they are good to get you in the sense of writing some text that does something and displays something, and you can tweak that. They're a lot simpler because it's not full programming, but it's a really useful skill, and it's a good way to actually just get started. Like I say, I'm going to change something in this text file and see what it looks like once it runs. And then you can move on to things like JavaScript and so on, or you can get started on here. If you have an iOS device like an iPad, Apple has an app called Swift Playgrounds, which is designed for partially for kids, but anyone can use it, anyone who wants to learn how to program, where it's a bunch of games and like lessons that teach you how to program using the Swift programming language. There are various other tools out there to help people learn, so it's one of those things of just pick what you want to do, find some resource, a book or videos or something, and learn that way. I mean, I don't know if something like, because I know you use Blender, I don't know if something like Blender has scripting support, where you can actually write little scripts that do things. If it does, that could be a good place to start, because then that's something that you can maybe start playing around with and doing it in something that you're using every day. But hopefully that answers your question a bit. Hi Uli. Thanks for subscribing, by the way, and for the gifted sub to Subdigital. I saw you had done that yesterday. Yes, Sinister. It's start with the basics. Like I said, if I open, let's open this. So this, like the most basic would be like let x equal 5, let y equals 3, x plus y. And that adds up to 8 over here. And this is using a tool in the development environment I have. Well, that is like one of the most basic things you can write. I mean, the quintessential starting thing is print hello world. And that's just run, and it says hello world down there. I've just programmed. So you start simple and you build it up, and I think the most important thing that anyone getting started needs to understand all the stuff that you're trying to get into your head when you're learning to program will not stay in there. It will go away. Like you remember, okay, conditional statements like if statements, for loops, variables, all these super basic things will be there, but stuff like how do I actually get an image to drawing like part of it and drawing it in a certain place and make sure it draws correctly, you will not remember that. So you go and you look at the documentation. Programmers spend most of their time Googling stuff. It's one of those things where being a good programmer is not about knowing what to write, it's knowing what to search online to find what to write. So I think it's one thing that a lot of new programmers get worried about. It's like, there's so much to learn, I can't keep it in my head. Nobody can. Programmers don't do that. The best ones know what few things they need to keep in their head and know the skills on how to find the rest again when they need to use it for like the third or fourth time. And that can apply to some really, really basic things that you just completely forget and have to keep looking up again and again and again, because you need them frequently to use them a lot, but not frequently enough to remember it all. So yeah, programming is a lot of fun. It's just find what area you want to work on the basics and just build on it bit by bit. And it's a really enjoyable thing, a really frustrating thing to work on at times, but then you get the high of something working, and it's one of the best feelings that you can get of this thing that I've worked really hard on suddenly works and works really well, or I've just solved this problem. And yeah, it's why I keep doing programming. It's why I haven't thrown my computer out the window and gone to live in the woods as a hermit yet, because you get that really good feeling on occasion. Right, so what were we going to be looking at? So the next thing we're going to be looking at is our text and image inspectors. So if I bring Coppice up, one thing that I noticed, and I have no idea why I designed the app to do this, is if I click on here, we get a font, paragraph, and link inspector. And we get a crash. Or maybe we get a breakpoint. That was unusual. Get rid of these. Try that again. Okay, that seems to work. Nope. Why are we hitting a breakpoint? I'm not seeing an exception thrown. Just disable that and see. Must be a stray break. Let's just build and run again. Sometimes Xcode does this where it seems to really throw breakpoints in there for no reason whatsoever. So, let's see if that has any issues. Okay, so that's working now. So yeah, what you can do is click on something and you'll get these font, paragraph, and link inspectors. But they don't do anything. Like you can change stuff, but it doesn't actually change anything. So why do you have these? Because when they actually work is if you double click on, then you can start changing stuff. And here, why would you want to switch to crop mode when you're not editing? Why would you want to rotate when you're not editing? You may want to see the description, but what I'm wanting to do is actually make it so that the description can be visible in the image. So what we are going to do is tweak this so that these only appear when we are in edit mode. So what we need to do is, let's do this on our image editor. So we have our inspectors here. And go in edit mode, view controller. Start editing at point. I believe there should be enabled. So what I want to do is just print out here enabled. I can't remember if this is what I do to actually allow it to start editing. I believe it is, but it has been a while since I've had to work on this. That's false. It is. So what we'll do guard self.enabled else turn nothing. Now this probably won't work, so what we probably want to do, page content editor. Call hierarchy. Do we have it on here? Yes, we do. Right, so inspectors did change there. Inspectors did change here. Hopefully work for us. So we're not displaying it. Go on edit and we display it. We click there and it goes away. Great. So let's do the same for text editors. Text content editor, text editor view controller. Find vectors. Guard self.enabled else and empty. So they don't display, but they do when you go and edit, and when you click out they go away. That was fairly easy to implement. So let's get this committed. Hi Steve. Yeah, we have resizing technically does work. Or rather, cropping does work. It's just not a great experience. But the contextual inspectors are actually contextual already. It's just the issue is when you clicked on the page, it would show the stuff that allowed you to edit the page when you couldn't edit the page. And I have no idea why I set that up. It could potentially be because initially, if you clicked on a page, it would start editing it. Whereas now, you can just drag it around unless you go and click on a link. You've got to double click to go in to start editing. So that should all hopefully make a lot more sense to people, because I'm not showing stuff that is completely useless. What I do need to check is if I go in here, so that's displayed, and that's displayed. Okay, so they're always displayed on here, but not on here. Yeah. I mean, if you want me to show you how I've got my inspector set up, I can show you that to see how it all works for the contextual stuff and how it works out what exactly to show. Okay, what's this side mission that you've got for me? Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, so what Steve has sent me is basically this show pro features in inspector is showing up dark in his screenshot. Yeah, I don't remember actually fixing anything there. Let's take a quick look. Leave. Vector view controller. No, that's the image as. Is it base view controller? No. Container. There we go. So what is this set to? Oh, I wonder. I mean, there is one potential option. I am still running Big Sur. So there is a chance it could be a bug in macOS Monterey that is causing that. I don't know why it would cause that. I mean, the tint is set there, but I don't think the tint should change the text color. I'll have to try that. I'm planning on updating to macOS 12 this weekend, finally, so that is a possibility. I believe I did build against in Xcode 13, so it would be against the macOS 12 SDK. So I'll take a look. Worst case scenario, what I can do is just remove the tint color and leave it plain. So, because it's not applying the tint color there. Is it actually applying the tint color for me? No, but I'm overriding it. So I wonder. I'm using a different tint color to you. Let's what happened? No, that's not it. Switch back to purple, that doesn't do it. Must be a macOS, because what it looks like it's doing is it's using the text that should be there for light mode rather than dark mode. So maybe it's a light mode, dark mode bug if you set a tint color on macOS 12. So that is something that I will take a look at. Let me I just send this to my iMac. I will show this. That's how you turn off notifications, and it still puts some notifications through. So this is what Steve was showing, how this here is black when it should be white here. So I have no idea why. Like, this is the first time I've seen this. So what I will do, oh good. Hopefully the stream survives this, because my dock has messed up. So if the stream goes down or anything, then we will see. See you later, Sinister. Thanks for dropping by, and yeah, if you have any more questions or anything, just feel free to drop by and ask away. So let's see if I can quit the dock without everything breaking. Is the stream all still working? All seems like it should be. Yeah, that'll be what caused it then. Yeah. Right, so I was going to write myself a ticket. Show Pro features an inspector checkbox in the Upgrade to Pro Inspector header is sometimes showing black text while in dark mode. Could be a shoot. File that under bug. X versions 1.2. Going latest version. Inspectors and Pro. Right. There we go. So that's all filed. So I believe that's the first bug I have filed on stream, and the first bug report I've had on stream. Well, besides stuff that I've actually been working on. So thank you very much, Steve. You're the first. So now that that's working and the inspectors are working, now we get to try and do something fun. And Earth is going on with the music app. I have it set up to repeat and shuffle, and that seems to mean like play the same song multiple times. You'd expect if you say shuffle and repeat, it would shuffle the entire playlist once before repeating the entire playlist again, but never thought I'd say it, but bring back iTunes. I miss the days when iTunes was one of those apps that you could use to determine is your machine screwed, because it used to be the case in early versions of iTunes that large parts of like the OS could lock up, but iTunes would keep playing, and you only knew that something that was really wrong when iTunes stopped playing. And just over the years it seems to have got worse and worse and worse. So what we want to do now is when you go in an edit page and you go into crop mode, we want to be able to have this. Basically what this will do is shift over there and resize up. Can't actually do this because it does a proportional scale and it is basing it off the original font size, but it will scale up and show the whole thing, or at least most of it, so that you can then tweak this. Let's say you wanted to leave it like that, you'd go back to view mode and it would size to fit content. So what we need is the ability to mark a page as being in an edit mode. And actually we don't even want it to size to fit content, we want it to go back and probably have the same width. But we want it an edit mode where it will basically take up most of the screen. That's a good point, Steve. So maybe you want it scaled the same amount that it was scaled before. I mean, the reason I'm thinking the same width is because if someone's laid this out in a particular way, it can scale down the width and like scale back down to the same width, and maybe the aspect ratios change, so the height will change, but the width will stay the same. And I suppose if you're already changing the height, if someone's got something above or below, it doesn't make that much of a difference. You're still going to have the same issue there where something's resizing and may resize over content. So yeah, possibly the same scale would work best. But what I need to do is do this in a generic way where I can put any page into this edit mode. Yeah, I'd want to be able to put any page into this edit mode so it would scale up to fill the whole thing and scale back down again. But also it needs to be something that is specific to the content, because scaling back down will like the content size after you scale back down will depend on that content, what has happened to it, what the content was before. I mean, I suppose the other question is if you're having it scale up to, so it would, you would edit it, it would go into crop mode, and it would basically scale up as though it is filling. I do that. Nice to fit. Scale this down. So if it would go from being small to effectively looking like this, where it fills up this area, then the question is, would you want to be able to move away from it? Or is it just going to be better that it switches you to like a temporary view like this, where it's just temporarily filling the whole thing? Alright, so perhaps the size on canvas shouldn't change automatically. It's just a viewport in which to aspect fit the image. Yeah, because I've implemented it where it does I close this and throw, say, this on. It does an aspect fit, but it's also an aspect resize. So you can't actually resize it to be something else. Because most of the time you'll want it to change aspect ratio. It's extremely rare you would ever want it not to. But what I'm thinking of is, in terms of the scaling, basically when you go in, if you're editing, if you're just viewing and replacing the image, that's fine. If you're editing hotspots, again, that is going to be fine because you're working in the image you have. But when you crop, it's a scroll area that is, like in the case of this image, it's not going to make a difference. But if you have an image that is bigger than the viewport at full size, it's going to fill up the viewport. So what I'm thinking is, what do I do when you go into crop mode? Do I have it where it basically resizes the page up like this, and you can do all your edits, and then if you click out the page, it ends edit mode and it basically resizes it back, it switches back to view mode and goes back to where it was? Or do I have it where the image is the appropriate size, but when you go in, you edit, you click here, it basically swaps out the editor, replaces an editor over it, so that it's effectively like being in this mode. So basically the canvas is replaced by this, and then when you go back to view mode, it's back on the canvas in the new crop, and it's resized it and stuff like that. Yeah, I think swapping it out makes sense, because the problem is you get too many weird modes. Like, it's technically a mode change, but I mean, it's a mode change anyway. I think what I would probably do is, rather than just make it look like this, I would have a bar appear at the top. I would have a bar appear at the top that takes you back to the canvas, because then this effectively is like a focus mode. You could have this where, like for this page, oh, I want to focus on this page, you could have a button that would, oh, it's going to focus, and it effectively takes you to this, but rather than this being selected here, you have an extra bar at the top which will take you back to the canvas that you were in. Like, it wouldn't fill up the whole thing because you still have the canvas on the side, so it's effectively a thing that goes over the canvas. So I think this is going to work the best, because yeah, it becomes a focus mode for pages. I thought about doing how Keynote does it. I could. The problem there is that then I need to implement cropping again, because, like I said, this is not cropping. This is resizing the image. Whereas if I go into crop mode, and I have it where there's opacity and you can resize back up, but it is its own mode, because most of the time you are viewing. If I started having it where it appears over the canvas and then it's like maybe half opacity, then you've got to go there, and if there's stuff behind it you can see it through, and it makes stuff kind of awkward. I think having it where if you go into crop mode, it goes into like a focus mode where it is full size. I think that makes sense, because I've been wanting to add like a way of, oh, I've got a page, I want to focus on it, so go into like a focus mode. So I think this is a good place to sort of trial that. Just do it purely for cropping, and then we can have it go back. Yeah, I think a semi-transparent background would make sense, because like something like a page, you got bits down the sides of the page, so when you go into focus mode, this background here could be translucent, so you've still got the context of the page behind, it's just in the focus mode, and you would have something at the top that is like exit focus mode, exit back to canvas, and you would still have this stuff here. Well, I mean, the way that you'd actually try it out is like this. We go here. Let's do some UI design and see what this would look like. Well, the issue with the size on the canvas is, like I say, if you have maybe taken an image and scaled it up to twice the size, and then you crop it, then basically it becomes a difference between like resizing an image on the canvas, like an image page on the canvas, becomes cropping in one mode but becomes resizing in another mode, and it's like, how do I resize this in this? Well, I've got to switch back to view mode to resize, which all makes a bit of weird sense. And the other issue is that when you start doing that, then you start editing stuff on the canvas, technically that's taking you out of the editor, and then I need all sorts of hacks there, because now this is a thing where it's something that, well, I can resize this page in this particular way, in this particular mode, that is allowing me to stay in the editor, but if I do this in any other circumstance, it takes me out of the editor. So I think it is just a bit... like, I get where you're coming from, I just think there's a lot of edge cases that makes it a bit awkward, potentially. So, what I want to do... go on. Oh, the drats. I want to do that. Nah. Yeah, it does add a lot more complexity. I think the thing is, with something like Keynote, is the canvas is the main thing that it's editing on, but you can have these separate views as well here. So I mean, Keynote, like, I agree it would be good to be able to do that, but I think it's just a thing of the complexity of implementing that, plus the complexity of the interactions with other parts of the app, do make it like I'm wary of that. That layer. No, we won't make it that. Let's just. I think what we might do is you dim down and maybe blur. So you'd have a blur behind, maybe. Let's see what that would look like. Just tuck this. Paste it and oh, and stick that on. Yeah, I already have scroll in the crop UI. The problem is that it's at that point you need the scroll to work in a weird way where it extends further out beyond where the image is. If the image is, it's again, it's one of those things that it ends up being kind of awkward. So that's worked. Yeah, I mean, this is the whole thing. There are a lot of things that ultimately sound like they could make sense, but like every time you start thinking more about it, you start thinking about how exactly does it hook up. I mean, this is the key thing between a UI designer who can draw pretty graphics and a UI designer who knows how to build UI. A UI designer who makes pretty graphics will say, "Oh, that'll look cool," and build that. But a good UI designer who knows how to build interfaces realizes, "Oh, but how does it interact with this, and how does this interaction work together?" And then everything quickly falls apart. But the benefit is you get far fewer things where you hand designs to engineers and the engineers go, "We can't do that." So have something like this. Then you would have a bar like this. Okay, I'm going to restart this playlist because yeah. Start this again. Okay, so hopefully that playlist won't repeat songs quite as often. What if cropping was just an alternative resizing mode for the page on the canvas? I think that's what Uli was talking about, and it's something that could work, but again, it's just adding additional complexity. Because you need this cropping mode anyway that I've already built. So therefore you're saying, oh, you've got cropping mode on the canvas that works one way, but cropping mode when you are viewing an image page works another way. They've both got different UIs, and then you think, oh, I'm cropping, but then, I mean, if it's on the canvas, now I need to actually handle drawing page content outside of a page, which is something that I'm not set up to do. And you also have the thing of the interaction becomes heavily modal, and it's not as obvious that it may be a different mode. So you've got to remember, oh, this is the mode I can where resizing means resize, and this is the mode where resizing means cropping. Yeah, the overlay mode is going to make it easier to ship, and like I say, I've wanted to have some sort of focus mode anyway at some point, so it almost makes sense to go this route because I can utilize that to do the cropping, and then in a future version, once I've fleshed out the focus mode a bit more, I can apply it just to anything in general. And then it's just a case of certain times you have to do something in focus mode, like cropping, but in all other cases, you don't have to. It's like an optional thing. But I think... See, I'm not sure about having this background. It's set to 80% with the blur on it. Maybe it just needs more of a blur behind. That makes it stand out a lot more. So if there's a heavy blur behind, you have a bar at the top that is lets you go back to the canvas, and you're in this mode here. I mean, we can even ignore the bar for now. Yeah, there is an argument to not have the transparent. I mean, the idea is that it is you are going into focus mode in the canvas. So for example, this is what it would look like, but you could switch to a second canvas, move around and come back to this canvas, and it should still be in focus mode. At least that is how I would want it to work. And the thing there is that by having this behind, it makes it clear you're in focus mode here rather than being in a specific page on the left hand side where you do not have this at the side, you do not have the context of the canvas behind. So I think it helps in terms, it doesn't help in terms of necessarily this, but it helps ground you of where you are in the app, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think sort of, but Photoshop's focus mode is more about getting the UI out of the way, whereas this focus mode is about focusing purely on one page within the context of a canvas. Now, in terms of like a done button and why we may not need this back to canvas for the crop mode is, you have to remember there will be an inspector down here where you can switch back to view mode or switch to hotspot mode, and that will take you out of this. So this will be like almost a special case of focus mode, where it's focus mode that is forced will probably look slightly different to focus mode that is something the user chooses to enter specifically. So when it enters specifically, we'll probably have this bar at the top with the back to canvas. When you're not in other cases, you will probably just not have the bar and just have the toggle switch between. But yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. It's certainly the easiest thing to implement. And it offers the most opportunity for down the line. It's building stuff that we will be building down the line, which is a focus mode. Probably not for this version, probably for a future version. Maybe even for the version after this one, when I'm going to be working on various bits of canvas stuff. But it lays the foundation for that. It means that I don't have to rewrite huge swathes of how the canvas layout engine works, which I would otherwise need to do. It helps me ship faster, and I think having the background with the blur, which should just be a visual effect view that I can pull off, that basically helps embed it in the context. One thing I will need to decide is whether I keep this bar down here when in focus mode. I sort of want to, so that you can show and hide this, but I will probably disable the zoom when you're in focus mode, because the zoom only makes sense for the canvas rather than this, and you don't really want to be sort of tweaking this stuff in the canvas when you're in focus mode. So yeah, I think that is a pretty good place, and that's we're about halfway through the stream, and I am out of anything to drink. I'm going to take a short 5-minute break, and when we come back, we will start looking at implementing this and seeing how much we can get done in the remaining time on the stream. So I'll see you all in 5 minutes. Hello and welcome back to the stream. I have a drink again and we can now start going back to some programming. As before the stream we had everything set up to go into a focus mode when we go into crop mode while on canvas view. So what we're going to do is start looking at how we might go about implementing that. Now we need to implement this in a way that it could potentially be applied to any page type, but it is just going to be applied to the crop mode for images in this release. So what we need is the ability to take an editor and basically scale it up and put a background behind it and then scale it back down. And what would be nice is if we could transition between the two, but that's a nice to have. So what I would probably do for now is just have it appear, because the way we would have it transition is probably have an image that morphs into the final image, and that would possibly... Oh, thanks, Uli. Yeah, so what we probably want is having our... potentially have like it transition from the image here over to here. Hi Mick, yeah, I've got it switched over. Thanks and welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll try to get those answered. So, let's think about how we can go about doing this. I think one of the key things is we have background set on most of our views, but I think they may be set on the page image editor, which would be quite useful as the page editor view controller. Yes, they are. So what we can do, so page editor view controller is actually a fairly flexible and powerful class, because everywhere that you can edit a page, it's ultimately a page editor view controller. Earth. Oh, that's why I couldn't see where Coppice was. I'd literally... So I'd had this over here. I was like, where was... on the other screen. I was like, where on earth is Coppice? I can't see it. Because I'd been on this screen and I'd clicked on Coppice in the dark and looked away. It's like, where on earth is Coppice? I can't see Coppice. That's Photoshop. Where's Coppice gone? Somehow I managed to put it in the exact same place so that this appeared exactly where my Photoshop markup was. So, the page editor view controller is this view here, and it is this view that then contains the text editor. On here we've got the image view editor, which will go to the image crop editor, which would eventually go to the image hotspot editor. So in this case this is filling up the entire screen. Here you have it appearing here. This is a page editor view controller. This is a page editor view controller, and you can have many of these around. Now, if I was to add this new page button in here, and let's say I go in and I crop this, you can see that it's updating this page over here as I move around. Because I'm editing the same page, I've got two editors of the same thing over here. So as you update the content in one editor, it updates it in another. What that means is we could just, this is already two editors, so what we could just do is throw up an editor that covers the whole screen, and it should just work, and it should maintain whatever state was in here, because as you edit in the overall view, everything behind it will update and you'll be able to see it in the blurred version behind updating. There may be a case, but in that case they would need to create a separate image, because the thing is, if you crop in here, it's cropping it. Like a page is a one-to-one thing, so everywhere that a page appears in every canvas on here, each, like in the page mode here, it should always appear the same. Because otherwise you start getting things where which things affect a particular page on the canvas versus which things affect the actual page content. In this case, you're cropping the actual page content, whereas resizing, you're resizing the page itself on the canvas, and you're not actually affecting the content. So in this case, it makes a lot of sense to only allow cropping and then everything is the same. And if you want to have the same image and crop it in different ways, where you just add multiple image pages and you crop them different bits. And it is possible that in the future I may have a thing where you've got a crop, and maybe in crop mode there's an option where you can just right click and make new page from cropped area or something like that. I mean, you could just like do a Command-Shift-4 screenshot to the clipboard and create a new page and just paste it in that way. So that's another way that you can already do it in Coppice. So I don't think having cropping be like a canvas level thing would work. But yeah, I don't want to get into this state where you're in crop mode and then you can click away. It should always be that when you click away, we should switch back to view mode. So at least when you're on the canvas, it should do that. I think. Let's leave that for now, because that's something where I want to get everything implemented, see how it would work, and then work out how I want it to switch back. But in theory, you should be able to go in, switch to these two modes, but whenever you switch away, it should switch back to view mode. Because then you could go into crop mode, crop it, and then switch away thinking it would have done the crop, and it hasn't. So actually you won't be able to switch away with focus mode, so it only really applies to hotspot mode. But the point remains. So what we will do is when you go into crop mode, crop mode going to focus mode. So what we need is an editor to say to itself, I want to go into focus mode. Because there are going to be more cases where you do something in an editor and that editor wants to take you into focus mode. So it should be something where the editor says, I want to go to focus mode, and if you're in the canvas will tell the editor, go into focus mode, and then that will call all the way back up to the canvas, and the canvas will then make that specific editor. So I think that's the rough data flow that we want. So how do we actually want to go about implementing it? Because the one thing you do have that is different between different instances on the canvas is the view model is different, and you have a different view controller. Now it could be going into focus mode, we want to reuse the specific view model for a specific view, maybe. Or maybe we don't. Maybe when you go into crop mode, it stays in view mode on the canvas, so then we'd want a new thing. Then we'd want this mode to actually work a bit different up at this level. Yeah, because when you go into here, switch to oh yeah, the inspector changes it on the view model, doesn't it? That's problematic. Have a look how we've done this in the other. So the canvas page would make a lot of sense. How that specific context, so no, that doesn't make a lot of sense. It's the font. Select as an attribute which holds on to you. Is that the view model is not actually our editor. That is the view controller. The view controller conforms to page content editor. So it is the one that if I go to editor, where we would want to add in, well, maybe not on editor, it would be on page content editor. You'd go into focus mode, but the point is you'd be doing that on the view controller. Suppose crop. So we can always have crop mode say go into focus mode, even if you're in the full page editor, because the thing is that will call up to a canvas and find there is no canvas there, so basically do nothing. The issue is when you go into focus mode, we want to take the current state of the current editor and then basically apply that to what is in the focus mode, because you could be partway through, potentially, like when we did the full focus mode, you could be partway through editing something and then you go into focus mode and you want that to be reflected. Now the content will be, but things in the view model will not be. And that is the problem, because when you first open an image editor, it opens in view mode. And if you click on crop mode and we're opening a focus editor, we need that to be in crop mode as well. So this causes all sorts of fun and games. Right. How do I actually want to... I almost want to be able to copy so you want an image editor view controller to be able to go into focus mode. And when it probably when so yeah, this probably makes more sense. When it is going to go into focus mode, it will call on here. And at this point, it's probably going to ask the view controller, or when it says going to edit focus mode, it's going to want to go into focus mode and probably ask the editor for a view model for focus mode. So therefore, this view controller can, let's say, create a new view model and then configure it ready for focus mode based on its current view model, which some things may be the same, some things may be different, and I think that gives us by far the most flexibility for this to work. So yeah, I think that is the way we're going to go about this. Of course, the issue I still haven't worked out how I want to solve is the fact that the inspector view controller, so it's space inspector view model. The inspector view model doesn't know about that, so the view model doesn't know if it's in the canvas, does it? No. Oh, yes, it does. It does know if it's in the canvas. And it needs to know anyway because it works differently. Okay, so it knows that if we're in the canvas, when we switch to crop mode, we're not going to switch to crop mode, we're going to switch to view mode and then tell the view to go to focus mode. Okay. I think we have a plan. But just in case said plan does not fully come to fruition, let's write this down. Ching to crop mode in VM in canvas. Is in view but tells focus editors be able focus mode canvas ask or VM or focus editor. Okay, so let's start by editing our protocol, which we have page content editor. So we have these protocols. Editor handles basically anything that can edit anything. So this is where we, for example, get our inspectors. There are parent-child relationships because you have, if I show you in Coppice, so here we have the text content editor that is inside a page editor. So the page editor gives us this page info inspector. The text editor gives us these inspectors here. For image, we've got a view editor inside an image editor, which changes to a crop editor inside of a view editor, and so on. And then you have that same hierarchy, but that is then inside a canvas editor. And I believe a canvas page editor potentially as well. So you basically get these hierarchies of editors that are built up, and they do things such as deal with inspectors, deal with opening links and stuff like that. And then you have more specific case for page content editor, where you can check is something actually a link to point, because that is useful for knowing, oh, I'm clicking here, that's a move, but if I click here, that is opening a link. And what we want to do is function enter focus mode, function exit focus mode, and function new model focus. Ooh. Ah. Interesting. Maybe we should just yeah, maybe we should do content editor for focus mode, which is going to return a NSView controller that conforms to page content editor. That should hopefully work well enough. We might actually want enter focus mode and exit focus mode to be on editor, because if we stick them on editor, then we can implement them on canvas editor, and canvas editor enter focus mode will actually right. page editor view controller. But what we want to do is get the canvas. How do I do that? On here. Oh, is it canvas? So the problem is, if you just do enter focus mode, you need to get it for the current editor. Question is, when that is called, canvas view, canvas editor. Not in there. Don't have a current editor in there. Sure, I store the current editor in a canvas somewhere. Okay. Contain the view. There. Or to start editing this, you just start typing. I mean, it works in a lot of, like, it uses the same logic as like open quickly or anything like that, but any of these you can just start typing in any of the jump bar menus, and I think it works. Oh, bringing it up without a mouse. I have it set up to Control 2. You can actually, if I go into key bindings, where is it? Here, editor. So you've got show related items, show group files, top level items. Oh, it's show document items for that one. I don't think it is. It may not be set by default now, but I mean, I have had this set up for a long time, and it's been Control 2 for me for a long time. So that just basically does it in whatever the current editor is, and that works in, like I say, anything that has a jump bar. I think even stuff like the documentation UI, I'm not sure if Control 2 will work, but the actual searching works. Right, so we have content editor, enter focus mode. Have our thing there. Suppose that is what we want to actually look at. The inspectors will be a good place because they need to know this. Hi Subdigital, how was your stream? What did you get up to on your stream? Just realised I was muted again. So it looks like a really interesting stream, so I'll have to check it out once I get off my stream. And yeah, I didn't realise we were there were more people out there doing Swift development and Apple platform development on Twitch. So oh, that's fine, really. People can come in and say they've just finished streaming. It's when they turn around and say, "I'm just about to start streaming." It's that's the bit that I think is a bit more Twitch etiquette. Oh, Xcode and I have a love-hate relationship too, Subdigital. I mean, I have used Xcode since version 1. I love it. I mean, a while ago I was jokingly given the moniker the Xcode puppy because I would go on Twitter and just respond to people with Xcode queries. And I used to do my Xcode reviews back in the Xcode 4 days where I did these massive long reviews of the new Xcode versions and everything that was new, but it just took so long. So I'm really enjoy using Xcode, but I do have an Xcode variant of my little robot for dealing when Xcode has its wonderful brain farts. So I was having a look to see when I update. Oh, I know how this would handle. You'd do inspectors the change, which goes up to parent inspectors did change, and that is if go to the editor, container view controller. Aha! Self.main editor. That is what I'm looking for. Where is main editor set? So create editor. Canvases editor. Okay, so we go to our canvases editor. Okay, so this is probably. Right, so we go to the selected pages, which are Canvas page view controllers. Okay, this is what happens when you don't actually work on a bit of code for a while. You spend a lot of time just reading through, wondering how on earth you've got things to work. You know things work, and you have the vague recollection of it must work somehow, and I got it working somehow, but you can never remember exactly how it works. So, if it's editable, right, so we get the inspectors for the selected page here. So we get the selected pages, and that is all the view controllers. So if you're going to focus, you can have multiple things. Right, so if I have multiple things, go there. Right, so you can only ever have one when you start editing, because then you go and just like that, and it stops editing. Okay, remind myself how my own app works. So, go there, start editing. So we'll do a similar thing when you can go into focus mode. So there should only ever be one thing selected when you want to go into focus mode. Because if no, that is not true, because potentially you can have a button like in the title that will put you into focus mode. In terms of the size, in fact, I can't remember what I use for me. I will find out how big Coppice is. So between the unit tests, Coppice itself, Coppice core and the unit tests, 51,972 lines. But I think that is roughly about 50-50 unit tests to actual code. And I know last time I checked it was about 50-50 between the two. Because I have a lot of unit tests. I don't actually... I have coverage... No, that's not doing full coverage because I didn't run the full test. I think my coverage of like the Coppice app is maybe... What? 20-30% of the actual app. But for Coppice Core it's like 90%, and Coppice Core is basically my entire data model, the entire layout engine for the canvas, and a bunch of extensions and stuff like that. So all of the like really complex stuff that you really want to unit test is in Coppice Core and is pretty much fully unit tested. The rest of it is mostly the UI side of things. And I do have some UI tests implemented, but they're mostly, I believe, working on the help viewer and the welcome screen. So I do want to get some more UI testing, because that's the bit that I don't really have done, like implemented very well. So we may work on those at some point in the future. I mean, if I look at my schedule, I mean, the cropping's taking longer than I expected. The hotspots may not take as long, so hopefully, but if I'm looking to release this version sometime in March or April, then we're possibly looking at doing some streams where I'll be mostly working on testing around March. So some of that could be writing some more automated tests, maybe for all the features that we're working on now. I mean, it would be interesting to see how that works. So yeah, it'll be interesting to play around with that a bit more, because it's been a while since I was doing some UI tests. I got them set up quite a while ago, and I haven't really had the opportunity to touch them recently. Go to a page editor view controller. I think what we want is, just as you can get the page editor view controller to call various things on that, I think we want to implement a canvas editor view controller so that you can actually get the canvas editor and call stuff on that. Because then enter focus mode, we can have a specific item on canvas editor view controller, which is enter focus mode with a particular page content editor. Actually, does canvas page view controller can have its containing canvas Well, it will be because it will be the parent editor, because I'm being a good AppKit developer and using a proper view controller hierarchy. So let's implement comes editor view. I could make that a generic function, but I'm not going to. Never try to not repeat yourself when a simple bit of repeating yourself ends up being easier. Oh, the view controller, return controller else the current parent editor. That gives us that. Oh. Possibly do with getting the canvas page view controller too. No, we want it just to be a page content editor. Because we're not going to do anything with this, we need to get the page content editor. Let's call this on, and then we're going to create a new thing. So, getting a somewhat large class, so at some point I may look at breaking some stuff up. Problem is, they always say, oh, keep your classes as small as possible, but the problem is that you can't. You can break the files up, but breaking the classes up when you have complex stuff is a lot harder than in practice than the theory says it should be. Implement into focus mode here, because what this is basically going to do is self.view controller dot focus mode for self. Focus. There you go. Just so we've got Canvas Editor, we've got Canvas's View Controller. Yeah, so I think we want this to be part of the Canvas Editor View Controller. The problem is that won't actually persist unless we keep a cache of everything, or we persist the state. I suppose we could persist, like, cache the view model, so we always keep the view model around for the lifetime of the document, but we don't keep the view controller around, so the view hierarchy gets torn down. Because this shouldn't be too memory intensive. Yeah, I think it would make sense. We'll work that out later. For now, we're going to enter focus mode, get our focus editor, content editor, focus mode. So that gives us our view controller. Call it on the right thing. That gives us our view controller. I believe we've got our stack view. Okay, so we're gonna have to change this because that is going to need to be in. I mean, we could cheat some auto layout. You know what? I feel like cheating with some auto layout. var current focus editor. Going to be a page content editor and an view controller. On did set. We're going to do current focus mode editor dot no old value dot remove from parent old value dot super view, and if let value equal our current focus mode editor, then we are going to self.add our child. which is our new value. And then what we want to do is self.view.add subview new value.view. What we're then going to do is new value.view.translates auto resetting message constraints false, and then we're going to add a bunch of constraints, and we're going to use auto layout to cheat. Because life is always fun when you can use auto layout to cheat. Self.scrollView.leading anchor right equal to view.lead. And basically we're going to stick the view into the overall view hierarchy above all of this, but we're going to make sure that its size always matches the scroll view. And in that way it should, in theory, just work. Oh, so the puppy's mystified. I'm surprised the puppy isn't there learning how you build Mac apps, Steve. Seeing alternate ways from how her parents build Mac apps. Learning the old ways, lost to time, and the Apple documentation archives. Does not conform. Yes. Let's just return self for now. Oh. Okay. Maybe I want to make that optional then, because it doesn't make sense for everything to return one. Where is my page content editor? And here, this wants to be optional because we don't want this in here. Actually, am I doing it this way? Stick that in here, because then I can override it in the places where I want to. The place where I want to is image editor view controller, where I'm going to return an image editor view controller, view model, image editor view model, image content, false, because it should never be true. Yeah, I'm gonna have to change this in Canvas to be a mode, because there's going to be a page mode, canvas mode, and now focus editor mode. So, as often ends up being the case, I don't need to make something into an enum. I can just use a boolean for it, because there'll only ever be two states, and inevitably there are more than two states. But this should create a new thing that should hopefully work exactly the way as the old thing. So we just build this and make sure it compiles, and then okay. So start switch to crop mode. Ooh. Let's just switch to crop mode to canvas crop mode. So we'll do that on our view protocol. And what we're going to do here is our did set is actually going to do self dot mode equal if that is in canvas and case dot crop equal self dot mode, then self dot mode equal view self dot view dot switch to canvas crop mode. And this needs to implement switch to canvas crop mode, which is just going to call self dot anti-focus mode. So hopefully actually we also need exit canvas crop mode. That's a controller. Now this probably won't work first time, but we will see. Oh, but it does. And it's switching this away, but that is because this is not actually working quite right, because what we want to do here is if we do this let model equal this, and we'll do view model dot mode equals self dot view model dot mode. We pass the view model here. Actually, that's might work. I may have to rearrange some things. Yeah, I'm gonna have to rearrange some things. Need to switch before we revert the mode. If we do that, then hopefully what should happen okay, so now we're not actually switching. Not switching. Because we're because we're telling the view to exit crop mode, but we haven't set the view yet. Oh, because we're setting. Okay. To do it this way. Rather than doing it on a did set, we're going to have to do a private set and have a function to actually update the mode. don't change it there, otherwise take mode, no, self.mode equal mode. So if the new mode is crop and we're in the canvas, then we switch to the canvas crop mode, but we don't update the mode. Whereas we do. But that's still not going to work for... bit hacky, but that would work. Alright, so let's find where we're actually setting mode. Pass this in. Pass this in. Hopefully this now works. Okay, so progress. You're in view mode. You go to crop. We are in crop mode, it's just not showing the crop mode up here. Okay, so we're selecting pages behind, so it doesn't seem... Aha! So what we want to do here is when we're in focus mode, our inspectors well, let's do if let focus mode focus mode editor. Let's start vectors. So hopefully this works. So we'll come here, start editing. Okay, so we've got our inspector and it's in the right mode because now we're in here. So vectors did change. Hey! We have now entered focus mode, and then I can edit that, go back to view mode, over there. I can shrink this down to here, go back to view mode, undo, redo. So there's still a lot of stuff to do, such as resizing these image views, but it now takes you into this focus editor. try something. Make sure down there. So if I start editing that, go there. Okay, so that isn't. Oh no, it is. So I'm going to have to. Where has that gone? Sure, canvas is disabled when in focus mode. Focus canvas page. Okay, so I think as it is 5 p.m. We will call the stream there. I think we've managed to get quite a lot done. Managed to get the inspector so it's not showing the inspector until you actually go in. We fixed some bugs and we have our new focus mode system sort of working in the primary phases of working, but it's looking pretty good. I may do some other tweaks, like maybe still leave the canvas up here, even if we take like the canvas and the page, even if we take this out. But yeah, I think this has been pretty productive, and this is really starting to come along pretty well. I'm really pleased with how this entire crop UI is looking and feeling. It really is starting to come together to be quite a useful feature. It's taking longer than I expected, but that is always the thing. As long as you're making progress along the way, it's always a great thing to move for. So oh, and before I go, for those of you who may not have seen, in case you are interested, as I mentioned at the start of the stream, I am now a Twitch affiliate, which means that you can not only follow me to get notified when I start streaming, but you can also subscribe, which will not only give you ad-free access, but should hopefully also eventually give you access to some emotes. Now, unfortunately, these are not actually working at the moment. Twitch still has to approve them, but the two I have in approval are this smiling emote and this angry emote. So I'm hoping they will get approved soon, hopefully for the next stream on Monday. I'm also working on some other emotes, such as this grinning emote, which I have for my new grinning face that I have on my character. A worried emote. And then this one is one that I took a while. Well, I'd say it took a while. It took me like 30 seconds to do a really bad confused emote. So I'm going to have to work out what to do for that one, because that is supposed to be something that looks vaguely like that. So I need to work out how on earth I'm going to make that emote work in the space that I have. But yeah, I'm playing around with some emotes, and I'm over the next few weeks and months I'm going to slowly update things. So like the follower and subscriber icons I can customize, and various other bits of the stream. I still need to get some overlays, like alerts, working. I mean, I have just noticed. Thank you, Mick Not Mike, TrevXR, JPMS, and Legos Jedi for following during the course of the stream. And hopefully I can get some alerts up so I can be notified, and you can be notified whenever someone follows or subscribes, rather than me only noticing a bit later. But yes, I think this has been a very good stream. As always, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Pilkey, or if you just want purely Coppice app related stuff, at Coppice app is a good place to follow. That will have any Coppice news, but it also retweets any Coppice stuff from my own account. If you want to get Coppice, you can download it for free from coppiceapp.com. And yeah, until this coming Monday, the 14th at 2 p.m, when the next stream is, and when we'll be continuing with this, I want to say thank you for coming along, and hope you have a great day, a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. Goodbye.